Hello, everyone. Welcome to Think Tank Television. My name's Erin Johnson, and here we hope you'll find good, thoughtful information about the issues around our town. And today, I'm happy to say, we have Dawn Byers with us, and this year she's a candidate for Select Board. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you, Erin. It's good to see you, and thanks for having me on Think Tank.
All right, yeah, it's good. Okay, so you're running for Select Board. What made you decide that you'd want to try?
Well, I would say the reason I'm running is for three reasons: transparency, transparency, and transparency.
I think that's excellent. Yes.
And I would add to that I am in a position that I feel I'm well aware that if I'm elected, that I'm walking into a hot mess. Yeah. and I say that because I see pieces of financial policy in the town of Whitman, but I don't see any long-term financial plan.
Yeah.
So really, given the constraints of the current financial situation, there's a lot of work to be done.
Before I don't want to go too far off what we were saying, but I just wanted to give a little nod to another station in Whitman Community Access, because we also have a government station, which is great for people. It's Channel 6 for people if they want to keep updated on the actual meetings and see the candidates a little bit more and see the meetings more, and they might feel more well informed when they see that, and it might influence, right, obviously, who they want to elect and what issues they want brought forward. So, but thank you so much for that. And so can you tell me, so you had some goals already, and did you already tell me your experience about, I know you were on the Cultural Council at one point, because I was too, and you stayed on, but which is kind of a neat thing, because it's about culture, which is fun, and there are grants from the state, right? So go ahead. What was that like?
Right. Yeah. So a little of my background to share with those who don't know me. I'm a resident of Whitman for the past 18 years. And I did spend 2 terms, a total of 6 years on the Whitman-Hanson School Committee from 2019 to last year, 2025. Chose not to run again. So for the past year, I've just been enjoying some free time. But over the past decade in Whitman, I have volunteered, like you said. We were on the Whitman Cultural Council together, which received state funding from grants, and together we'd organize the summer concerts. Also planned the beginning of Whitman Day, which ran for the past 4 years and is upcoming in June. Also have volunteered locally at the St. Vincent de Paul Food Pantry, as well as the Senior Center. There was a period of time I had availability and delivered some Meals on Wheels. So certainly I'm so committed to this town and wanting to just give back and contribute in the best way that I can. And based on my professional background, I work in the accounting field. So I have a sort of affinity for, following budgets and numbers, and it's just something that is important to me.
Yeah, it sounds like you have good qualifications for the kind of decisions you'll be making, because some of them will be financial, and you'll have to consider all the other places in the towns, right? Because the funding goes towards schools and everything else. Okay. So do you have any particular priorities? I know you talked about the budget, and is that the major priority, or is there anything else that comes before that?
When I think about what I feel like a select board member, their responsibility is, aside from governance and policy within town hall, and certainly hiring the town administrator, there's a responsibility to, I feel, number one, rebuild trust in the community. And I say rebuild because maybe there's been a breakdown, right, for some community members, and not trusting their local government, but also building or rebuilding just the connection within community, right, and building community. And I think some of that comes from cultural council, right? Getting
Mhm.
people together.
Yeah.
There are a lot of citizens in our town who I believe are home and feeling perhaps lonely, right? And lonely
Yeah.
and disconnected from their community. I'll tell you, I
Mhm.
really enjoyed the Whitman Historical Commission did a lot of interviews
Mhm.
with our citizens who have been in Whitman a long time, and they shared a lot of their stories and their
Mhm.
experience. And some of them said they missed knowing all their neighbors, right? And maybe
Yeah.
through the years, their neighbors have moved and new people have come in. They haven't gotten a connection with them as much. But I would love to bring to the select board the ability to improve engagement within the community in whatever way we can.
And I think that would be really a wonderful thing, you know? And that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, and I think you pretty much answered it, was how do you build trust back into local government if it's important? I mean, when you talk about money and taxes, you know, it's really hard for, I think, for a lot of people to just presume the person who says you need to pay more taxes really knows what they're talking about, and is really considering the effect it's going to have on people, you know. And I guess that's what I meant. How do you build that trust in there?
That's is so important, and to build that or strengthen that public trust really comes with accurate financial reporting, right?
Mhm.
And the transparency piece, I feel, could happen
Mhm.
if monthly reports were available on the town website, right? What is
Yeah.
being spent
Mhm.
and what is the revenue coming in, right? It's all about
Mhm.
the revenue that the town receives and then what does it spend it on, right?
Mhm.
There are annual reports that we can look at, but those
Mhm.
are broad summaries. The town has their annual audit just to be sure that they are in compliance with certain accounting general practices. But the trust is something you only regain when I feel you can show the numbers, right? And the clear
Mhm.
numbers. So it's easy for citizens to read, not obfuscating with piles and piles of long 200-page reports or something.
Mhm. Really? Yeah.
But at the same time, I found also in my experience on school committee, some people just want the summary and some people want to dig into the weeds. So I think
Mhm.
both should be available for those who feel they want to go over where are the dollars being spent, right? Where we pay taxes and how is it being
Mhm.
spent? So regaining public trust and strengthening that is really done by sharing information and information that the people can believe is factual and in the real numbers. Also, we do need to protect our core services throughout the town with financial planning. And I
Mhm.
think you also rebuild and gain trust when you have a plan and that
Mhm.
it's not reactive year to year, which is what I feel has been happening and I've been observing.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. So, speaking of financial, what are the what ideas do you have about like you say, we're in quite a quagmire, I guess, with the budget. Do you have any particular do you have a strategy that you would recommend to maybe other people on the board or something to as to how to deal with some of the issues? And I don't know all of them, but I know the one about the library. But in terms of, you know, I know there are other big projects. I mean, the middle school project is still there, isn't it?
Right. Whitman Middle School, a new building project was approved by the voters. So that building is being built and we are going to be seeing, you know, the borrowing for that appear on our local tax bills.
Mhm.
But my recommendation for, you know, regaining trust and reviewing the finances would be
Mhm.
to reach out to the Department of Revenue because their
Huh.
division of local services does provide support to
Mhm.
municipalities. That's what they're there for. And they have a financial management resource bureau and
Mhm.
they have field reps who will come out and they will work together with the town, with the departments to look at budgeting and planning, revenue functions, governance,
Mhm.
and plan for long-term fiscal stability. And that's really what people want, right? They want stability in their home, in their community, and that's available to us. So I think that's number one. That's the solution. I feel right there. If we can work
and
with
I
our
think it's
local,
great that you looked for those resources. You reached out to other people who may have other ideas about how to solve problems, even though they're not in Whitman. They may still have a lot of information that's helpful to people, yeah, and the boards, in Whitman so they can make good decisions.
yeah.
Um,
Thank
So
you.
speaking about finances again, no, I really do think that's good. I think it was very imaginative of you to do that, to really think, isn't there anybody else who knows all this stuff? But maybe you always knew it. It's the first I've heard of it, but.
Well, what's interesting, Erin, the town did utilize a financial consultant back in 2019. Many boards refer over the years to John Madden. He was a
Mhm.
financial, I think, a director of finance in the town of Duxbury, but Whitman hired him. I believe town meeting approved $20,000 or $30,000 to pay him to do a review and provide financial advice, if you will. Made some recommendations. The town has, followed some of them. Maybe, veered away from others. One in particular is a capital override because we do have infrastructure and equipment needs. But that was at that time viewed as an opportunity to, look at
Excuse me.
financial advice.
Mhm.
But it has come to my attention that we didn't really need to pay for that, evidently, because the Division of Local Services does provide this service as well. So, and I've been reading up on, there's a town of Belchertown, there's similar population to us, but every community is different. But they'll come in and help and look at our best practices and where there can be efficiencies made.
Sounds like you already found one way to save the town money anyway. Okay. So speaking of money, and it's the thing that comes up over and over and over again, Prop 2.5 is here. Do you think it has outlived its efficacy, or I guess the word is effectiveness? Do you think it really helps towns now to have that cap on the amount of taxation they will have on their property? Or do you think it really hasn't been that successful, or at this point it isn't working? I don't know what you think.
Well, it is the law right now, so we have to live within that. And I think there's some towns that have done that successfully, right? Because their leadership has been able to provide clear numbers and financial reporting. And, people say no one will vote for an override, but we've seen it successful in other towns. And I really feel it's how you frame it. It's how you share the information and you support it and you justify it, right? Why it's needed and so forth. Whether, some will say, it has outlived its time. Although when it was passed into law back in 1980, around the early 80s, one section of that included the basis for an override. So they almost understood at that time that this does restrict communities, but there is relief in the form of an override. So I feel like the override is always seen as negative, but it is the opportunity to, exceed that 2.5 when it's necessary. Is it necessary for Whitman right now? Because the select board just voted $500,000. They did not tie it to specifically the library budget, which was the risk, a week or two ago. But I don't know that I can answer if that's the right time for that now, because we've got to understand our revenue and expenses, right? The expenses have been growing more than our revenue, right?
Yeah.
And if we can't control some of them, which is the Plymouth County retirement, and I don't think that's gotten enough sort of communication prior to this year and in the past year. I mean, some people know that it's been going up as a requirement from Plymouth County, but information really came forward back in 2014 that this was going to be happening. So 12 years ago, the town was notified, as all the towns in Plymouth County were notified, that this was the funding schedule, right? This is the cost of employees in our town who've served and then retired, and they've earned this pension, and people are living longer. And perhaps maybe the earnings on that investment isn't generating enough income. So what's happened over the past 10 years, that one expense has gone from 1.8 million up to 3.8 million this year. And it's going to keep growing up 300,000 every year. So your question was about Prop 2.5 override, but
that's okay. Because it was really interesting. I didn't realize that, because that can be, retirement is great. You work your whole life and it's great to have a pension to retire on. But yeah, when it's funded in part, right, by the state or by the county, it's the state?
Well, it's the town of Whitman employees, but we pay into Plymouth County Retirement, and that's where our employees get their pension paid from. So it's called Plymouth County Retirement Fund. And this particular funding schedule, which is very aggressive, and it's at the 3.8 million, and it will continue to increase annually by, I believe, 300,000 or more, will continue until fiscal year 32. That is when the prediction is that it will technically be fully funded, and the assessment will not be in the millions. But until then, we've got a solid 5 years to plan for this expense, on top of our expenses, that provide the services to our town.
That's good. I mean, that's definitely forward thinking. But I was wondering, this is a little bit different. It's about the types of meetings we have online. And I know even when I was on the cultural council with you, I think we were still wearing masks and things because there was still a COVID outbreak. But we had some of our meetings online. And do you think it would be better for people, and people would be more likely to participate in government meetings if they were online in some kind of a format where they could actually interact as if they were there? I mean, actually speak at the meetings and then actually, vote maybe at town meeting, or is that kind of too futuristic?
I like that idea. I like if there's something that can allow citizens to access a meeting more easily, then I would be in favor of that. I don't know if there would be a concern that you might be out of state, right? You might be a Whitman resident, but on vacation, or you might be living in Florida part of the time, or, a snowbird.
A technology issue. Would they have the technology to validate all that stuff and keep it, in the
right. And I don't know if the history of democracy and town meeting being physically in a building is something that takes precedence over, people zooming in from all over the country or the world for that matter, right? But if it getting back to the access piece, right? If someone is not physically able to come, but they're in Whitman and they're in their home, right? There's I would fully support that accessibility.
Okay, thank you. And it's kind of an interesting idea to me too. I mean, I guess a town meeting is a good form of government, right? I mean, I think it's great to have such direct representation. Do you like that form? I mean, it seems like some places have changed, and I don't know why they would. Personally, I think it's a great thing. But do you think that we should have a system where we only have representative government, or do you think direct representation by the people is great?
I hope that Whitman stays representative by the people. Certainly, every voice and every vote should count. And I like to think of town meeting as like the social event of the year, right? Like getting together with people. Sometimes people catch up with people at town meeting and in person. So I think it's great. I think it's great.
That's great. Okay. Let me see. I think I might have had one more thing. I think we talked about the finances, and I think those are all the questions I had, unless you can think of something else you'd like to talk about.
I'm just really excited about the opportunity. Whitman is a fantastic community, small town, but also it started as an industrial town, right? It wasn't really there is a farm over by Peaceful Meadows in Hornston now, which is wonderful, but it was industrial and there were factories and it was really a hub, and it was really, a bustling community, and I think it still is. And we have so much potential here. I mean, there's a lot of potential. I know the Corthell building on 168 Whitman Ave is available to the town now. It had been leased to another organization for many years. So there's opportunity there for the town and the community to potentially use that. We've got the Park Ave School, which has always been topic of conversation, boarded up for 20 years, which is so upsetting, but notably so because of the deed and needed to get figured out. But it would be great if the town can find some purpose for that. Behind the fire station, we have the armory. We've got, the old DPW office is now going to be transitioned into a food pantry, which is fantastic. There's also the Camp Alice Carlton land, which borders Rockland. And we've got the new open space and recreation plan that was just done. I hear conservation's talking about a wetland policy or a bylaw. So lots of great things. I'm really hopeful. The future certainly looks bright for Whitman. It can be a little gloomy with finances right now, but I hope that I know there's a path forward. I know there is. And I'd encourage people to really get involved, right? Get involved. And it's not that exciting watching meetings, but certainly reach out to me if you have questions. You can get my phone number at Town Hall. It's on my nomination papers, so anyone's welcome to give me a call and catch up.
Okay, that's great. And maybe I already talked about this, but because now in terms of the library and the other issues going on, the select board already decided that we will vote on the library to keep the library or not at town meeting. Do I understand that correctly?
Well, in their most recent meeting, which let me check the calendar, which was Friday, April 10th, they voted to place a $500,000 override as a ballot question to support the operating budget and the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District assessment. So it doesn't specifically identify if the override fails, the library will be closed. That was previously the conversation and a vote, but they rescinded that vote. So now the override is to support the overall budget and more or less all the departments of the town. Should it fail, then that would be a decision, I believe, by the select board and the town administrator on where services and expenses would need to be cut. But I do feel like what we're operating on right now, as far as services to the town, is extremely lean. Right? We know that the town clerk, if you go into the clerk, their window is only open 3 days a week now, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And town hall itself has been closed on Fridays for the longest time. And I believe many other departments are reduced. So I don't feel our overall budget is extravagant by any means. But I think to get people to feel comfortable, voting yes, they may need more information.
Okay, and you've given us a ton of information tonight, and I'm so glad to see that you're running, and I wish you the best of luck. And if there's anything else you'd like to say, you're welcome to say it.
Oh, no, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And this was wonderful to chat with you, and hopefully we'll get a chance in person to talk some more.
Thank you, Dawn. And thank you, everyone. Dawn Byers, to be clear. Thank you, everyone in Whitman-Hanson, for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you next time.